Well, it's time to reach the halfway point in the Premier League season as we look ahead to matchday 19, the first fixture list after Christmas Day, and we are going to be back to look through all 10 matches across Boxing Day, the 27th and 28th of December. If you're looking forward to that, then please do put a thumbs up on the video, and as always, get your predictions in the comments below. If you beat or match my overall score, you will get a shout out in the next recap, which will be in Friday afternoon's episode looking ahead to the weekend. But for now, as the main attraction of our look ahead to matchday 19, we have got to prepare for a huge game at the bottom. Two teams that are finding form, that are starting to pick up results, starting to find performances, and starting to make the relegation battle a little bit tighter. It is Sheffield United versus Luton Town on Boxing Day, and we're going to preview that by looking back at both of these teams' games from the weekend. I think both produced pretty exceptional defensive efforts. Let's start with Luton against Newcastle, which obviously last week we couldn't really look forward to as much as we'd like because of the incident with Tom Lockyer at Bournemouth. The best news, obviously, since that episode was recorded and released is that Tom's now returned home and can spend Christmas with his family, and all appears to be going well in his recovery. So that's the most important thing. We also should start, in addition to thanking the Bournemouth fans from the week before, to thanking the Newcastle fans as well, who unveiled a huge banner before kickoff, joined in with the applause in the 4th minute, and were generally excellent throughout. Probably the first away fans this season at Kenilworth Road, where the majority have sung throughout the game, even when their side were behind. So big credit to Newcastle for that. Of course, the bit we didn't get to mention before the preview for this game was it is the Graham Jones derby of sorts. The former Luton manager coming back with Newcastle, and unfortunately for him, ended up on the losing side. It was probably Luton's best performance of the season for a couple of reasons. The first one is, it's probably the most clear-cut openings I've seen Luton create this year. We've had times where we've got in through channels, we've had 2 or 3 opportunities, but when you look at the goal we scored, we had a couple of other chances from set pieces. Adebayo had a one-on-one, we hit the woodwork twice, including once from inside the area. Overall, it was a really aggressive attacking display to play a Champions League side who, albeit haven't been in great away form, and to have more shots, more on target, and just more opportunities overall, as well as outscoring them, is a really fantastic effort. It was also a first clean sheet of the season for Luton, and that was despite the fact that Lockyer had obviously been lost, the skipper, and then the fact that Amari Bell had to be withdrawn during the game, as well as Issa Kabore at right wing back. But those that came in, Mads Anderson after an injury layoff and Ryan Giles, who's rarely featured in recent weeks, have both showed the quality they've got, and this is making Luton's recruitment in the summer look phenomenal. I mean, if you go back to yesterday and look at Manchester United at lunchtime, Teddy Mengi was sold to us for peanuts, a 6-figure sum, which by Premier League money is nothing, and he would have played for Manchester United yesterday. It's a very strange situation to see how well the recruitment has gone, especially given the fact that it's been used against us most of the summer, as us not showing ambition to try and survive. But Luton Town move on to 12 points and of course break that dreaded Derby's point record total that everyone was talking about pre-season. And of course, now look outside the relegation zone to Nottingham Forest just 2 points above, who, by the way, have got the unluckiest red card I've seen in a long time. A brilliant tackle by Willy Bolly. It worked out in our favour, and I'm sure a lot of Luton fans will have been happy to see Bournemouth win after last week, but that was a shocking decision, and it really did change the game. Back to Luton, though, a fantastic win. Loads of brilliant performances. A first goal for Townsend, who's looking more and more energetic by the game, sort of following the path of Barkley, who gradually over 6 weeks went from a player who looked a little bit short on legs to a player who has been a stalwart of the team. And Townsend is now starting to reach that area as well, though I do think he'll get a rest from the start on Boxing Day. For me, there were probably 2 moments that epitomised the game. The first one was Issa Kabore in the first half, who ran forward 50 yards, lost the ball, sprinted back 60 yards, put a slide tackle in to win it back off Gordon, and then kick-started the counter-attack by sprinting 50 yards the other way. Really is starting to become a fan's favourite, had played brilliantly at Bournemouth in that first half, and did exactly the same again before coming off with a little bit of a worry at half-time. And then the second one for me was at the end, and I know a lot of Luton fans enjoyed it, particularly given the Graham Jones link, and I think while he perhaps gets a lot more criticism for the job he did on the pitch than he probably deserves, I think the big problem with Luton fans is that he didn't really understand the club, and the fact that he was talking people down, the old famous quote that we couldn't win without Izzy Brown, which was unfair on him as well, by the way. But those who were involved in that team, who had their confidence pushed back, the likes of Pelly, who came on towards the end of this game, it made that last moment all the sweeter, where Pelly, as we had the ball by the corner flag, beat three men, ran through towards goal, then just turned back to the corner flag and won another one to see out the final seconds. And it's part of the Luton spirit that every single person contributed. There wasn't a bad performer on the day. And for Pelly to see the game out like that, after dropping out the team in the last couple of games, it just perfectly summed up Luton. And it's so important that we have people in the squad who understand that journey. And Pelly has been one of those. So fantastic from start to finish. Couple of big saves from Kaminsky as always, albeit he was a lot quieter than he normally is. And in midfield, again, Barkley and Nakonga, very comfortable, very dominant in the first half. I think Isak coming on for Newcastle changed it a bit. But overall, Luton brilliant. Sheffield United, though, much the same at Aston Villa. Very different for them. Villa, probably the best home side in the division this season. And while they were passive, they looked a little bit complacent from the start. The ball was moving slowly. They seemed to be in second gear. Sheffield United had an excellent shape. They did have an occasional counter-attacking threat. And they didn't get carved up too many times by Aston Villa, despite the fact that they dominated possession and had a few opportunities in the end. So overall, this is going to be a really interesting game. Sheffield United will have to be more aggressive and ambitious at home than they were in that away game against Villa, and possibly even more so than they were against Brentford. And Luton are going to have to adapt, having played a Bournemouth side that loved to keep possession last week, and 3 of the top 4 from last season, aside from that, in Arsenal, City and Newcastle recently. So it is going to be a very different type of game and a completely different type of pressure with it as well. It's the sort of game where Luton probably, thanks to the win on Saturday, now can't afford to lose rather than must win. With the next 2 away games being Sheffield United and Burnley, if Luton can start to find that home form at Kenilworth Road, then those 2 games, if we can pick up results, because those 2 sides both are now as well, it could be a really important spell for us. But I want to say well done to all of the bottom 3, because companies adapted at Burnley as well. Wilder's had an impact at Sheffield United, and after all the criticism of the gap being wider than ever and the bottom 3 being an abomination in the Premier League, they might as well just pack up. Well, all 3 of them are making it interesting now, aren't they? Just 2 points behind Forest, a game in hand in Luton's case. It's getting interesting down there, and don't be fooled, it's going to be tight at the bottom this year. For this game, though, I'm a little bit concerned, because if it had been Heckingbottom Sheffield United, I'd be confident. We generally had a good record against them. Won 1-0 there last year with a bit of Adebayo magic out wide to create the goal. And he has been in great form again recently too. But I do wonder what we're going to do against Chris Wilder's side, who has gone back to how he traditionally plays and has settled in again perfectly at Sheffield United, a club that seems to give him a bit of extra motivation as a supporter when managing. And that does worry me for this, because they played well recently and they've looked a lot more robust defensively too. With Luton having a few knocks, albeit Nakamba coming back in, I'm a little bit worried about this one. I want to go for heart over head again, and I think I'm going to. I think this is going to be a tight game. I could see it going either way, but I'm going to go for Luton to nick it. Sheffield United 1, Luton 2. If I was going with my head, I'd probably pick a draw, because I think both sides can't afford to lose it. I think 1-1 is a more likely outcome. I'm going with my heart again. I didn't do it last week and it cost me 3 points, so I'm going to do it this time. Luton to win 2-1 at Sheffield United, but both sides picking up really well, and great to see all 3 of us now having a real go again. With that out of the way though, let's move on to the rest of our predictions for matchday 19 in the Premier League, and to do that, we need to have a quick recap of what happened last time at the weekend. So let's look back at matchday 18, where it all started so well. The most predictable game of the weekend was as predictable as expected. Palace and Brighton drew 1-1 for the 5th successive time at Selhurst Park. 3 other correct outcomes for me, but no more perfect scores. My points came for West Ham United's win, for Bournemouth's late win, and for Spurs nicking a home one against Everton, albeit they almost threw that away. A very low scoring weekend overall, with some of the shocks. Most had Fulham to beat Burnley, most had Villa to beat Sheffield United, and not many had 2 or 3 of the others, because they were quite evenly matched games and the scorelines were spread out. But 1 of you did match my score, and 3 of you did beat it. Chris, just as in the championship predictions earlier today, you did match my score, this time with 6 points and 1 perfect score. Steve, you picked up 8 points, 2 perfect scores, and managed to pit past me again. Mello, 9 points for you, 2 perfect scores again. But the match day winner with 10 points, the only one in double figures, is Mitchell, who only got 4 games right, but 3 of them were perfect scores. So 10 points for you, our match day winner. Again, get involved with match day 19. Give me your score predictions in the comments. These are the ones I've gone for, though, for this weekend. I've gone for Newcastle to bounce back at home to Forest by 2-0. Unless that Bolly appeal is seen in time, which is unlikely on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, then you will probably miss this Newcastle game. That's a big loss for them. It's also pretty disgraceful, but we're not going to cover that again. It's a shocking mistake. Newcastle at home are still very strong. They were good against Fulham. They'll probably get the win. And the game did change a bit at Kenilworth Road when Isaac came on. So you've got to give them credit. At home, they've been very strong. And I think they'll get by this one by 2-0. From a Luton point of view, we need to support Newcastle for this one. Bournemouth at home to Fulham. Fulham becoming very inconsistent. Bournemouth have been excellent in recent weeks. And again, well, they made hard work of it against 10 men. Dominic Solanke with a first hat-trick. Brilliant effort from him. And I'm going to go for them to win this one by 3-1. Sheffield United Luton, you know my score. Probably a heart-rolling head moment by 2-1. Liverpool to win 3-1 at Burnley because Liverpool are starting to look close to their best again. They were rampant at times against Arsenal. If they can find that fire in front of goal, I've got a feeling they're going to be very strong contenders. So I think James Trafford is going to need to have a very good game there. Now I'm going to get a bit of stick for the next one. I've gone for United 0, Villa 4. And let me explain my reasoning. United are virtually out of centre-halves. They've got a very key weakness this season, which aside from not creating chances, they've only scored the same as Luton in the league, is their soft underbelly in midfield. Now, young Mainu made a mistake against West Ham. They're having to play McTominay deeper, which takes away their attacking threat. Fernandes loses his tactical shape just to go and be the hero and do 50, 60-yard sprint backs to get on side with the fans. But Villa's strength is playing through the middle. They were shocking on Friday night, and they will get a real rifling from Unai Emery. I think we'll see a reaction from Villa. Their strength is United's weakness, and I can just see it being one like that Bournemouth game that goes really wrong. I do hope I'm wrong on that front because I want to see a closer battle at the top, and if Villa win 4-0, United are going to be dropping away, and it doesn't make the European race as exciting as a neutral, but I just feel like these two sides are woefully matched, so going to go for Villa to win very comfortably. For Brentford v Wolves, I'm going to play safe with a 1-1 draw. Wolves, whilst they got the win against Chelsea, gave up a number of great chances. And if Chelsea had a poacher or a fully fit Nkunku, they probably would have won by 3 or 4. Chelsea against Palace, again, this is the sort of game that's been awful for Chelsea this year. A side that comes and sits deep defensively, has got real quality on the counter-attack. It just reminds me of Chelsea v Brentford and so many other games of a similar ilk, even the Wolves one that we saw at the weekend. So I'm going to go for Chelsea 1, Palace 2. Just feel like Roy's got one in him there. Everton v City, always a close game. City have obviously been in Saudi. Well done to them for winning the Club World Cup. While they've got the extra day, the travel time and all of that is going to make a bit of a difference. Everton have had a couple of poorer results, but they're unfortunate not to get that point in the end at Spurs. Half a roll of a ball away from it on the goal line when it hit Vicario's knee. So I'm going to go for Everton to nick a draw, 1-1 at home to City. Brighton v Spurs on paper should be one of the thrillers of the week. Two teams that will press relentlessly, play high lines and try and keep the ball. And I'm going to go for Spurs to edge it just because I feel their defence is slightly stronger. Don't often say that. But they're both poor at the back in comparison to their attacking threat. It could be any score in truth, but I'm going to go 3-2 Spurs. I'll predict a red card in that game as well. And then the final one, I think a bit more comprehensive. West Ham, phenomenal at home against Manchester United. Second half, they blew them away. In Kudus, Bowen and Paqueta, they've got an unbelievable 3. And David Moyes is doing it again. I've said it many a time. The criticism is baffling. I don't understand it. In my lifetime, I've never seen a West Ham team overachieve this consistently, perform at this level consistently, and even play good football for the majority of the time. I know he gets stick for his defensive play, but they're exciting on the counter. Don't think it will be enough at Arsenal, who were very solid at the back against Liverpool at times. I know Trent had the chance to win it, but otherwise the balls into the box they dealt with well. Gabriel and in particular Saliba had a really good game. So 2-0 Arsenal for me to finish off. But those are just my predictions for matchday 19. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments below and give me your predictions for all 10 of these games. If you beat or match my score, you get a shout out in Friday's recap as we look ahead to matchday 20. That will include a look ahead to Luton v Chelsea, which of course is the Saturday lunchtime TV game. But in the meantime, if you did enjoy this one, please do put a thumbs up on the video. If you didn't see our championship predictions for Boxing Day earlier today, they're up in the eye above with League One shorts predictions to come tomorrow. Most importantly though, a Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you for the incredible support this year. We will be back on the 27th of December to look ahead to the Championship fixture list on Friday. And then with this series, we'll be back on Friday afternoon to look ahead to Saturday's action in the Premier League. But thank you very much for watching as always. Your support is hugely appreciated. And I'll see you back here next time, the other side of Christmas, as we return with more Championship predictions.